Good morning. My name is Kelly McNeil, and I serve as the Director of Congregational Life here at First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus. Thank you so much for joining us on this cold and rainy morning. I hope you all are staying warm and are able to snuggle up under a nice thick blanket with a hot cup of coffee or tea as we enjoy this Sunday service together. This service looks a little bit different from our typical Sunday services. We are so thrilled that our ASH group, the Atheists, Skeptics, and Humanists group here at First UU, will be hosting this service. Before I hand it over to them, I have a few quick announcements. If you are visiting with us this morning, we are so glad that you are here. Please let us know that you are visiting by filling out the visitors form on our website. You can find a link to that in the chat. If you are interested in our religious exploration program for children and youth, please email our Director of Religious Exploration, Amber Scott. We are looking for help with our Sunday morning services. We are seeking short 3-minute videos to be featured in our online services. You can tell us a personal story on our monthly theme, share how you became a part of First UU, what the church means to you, or what brought you to Unitarian Universalism. Please send me those videos and we'll work on incorporating them soon. You can check out our Friday news email for a list of upcoming monthly themes. And please mark your calendars for Friday, November 20th at 7:00 p.m. for our Zoom Hymn Sing, hosted by our fabulous music team. The Zoom invitation for that will be going out later this week, so be sure that you are on our mailing list so you can participate in this exciting opportunity to come together as a community and sing together once again over Zoom. If you have any questions, please email our Director of Music, Brandon Moss. And if you would like to get on our mailing list, you can email me. Finally, as always, everyone is invited to our coffee hour after this service. The link will be in the chat box and the passcode is lowercase UU. And with that, I invite you to enjoy the service.
Hello, my name is David John Crone, and I'm the chair of the Atheist-Skeptic-Humanist group of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus, Ohio. We meet on the fourth Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m., and of course, we're meeting via Zoom now. But if you'd like to join us, please shoot me an email at this address. I'd love to take credit for the content of this service, but unfortunately, it was all done by a wonderful committee consisting of Alice Farina, a doctor and our health consultant, Amber Scott, the First UU Director of Religious Exploration, Anita Bucknam, who is an OSU professor and ASH editor, Bob Ream is our disability advocate, Brenda Penn is our minority advocate, and Kathy Elkins is our humor advocate. Karen Timmis is music director and prison reform advocate. Tom Balliol is the ASH historian and science consultant, and special thanks to Les Clean, who is our resident composer and videographer for this entire service. Our topic this morning is When Hope is Hard to Find. And on behalf of all the freethinkers, welcome.
Good morning. A flame has been used to symbolize many things and through many years from the most ancient times. But today we know that the flame is much more than just a symbol, because the flame, like us, requires oxygen. No oxygen, no flame. The atmosphere of the early Earth had virtually no oxygen. But during the course of millions and millions of years, the amount of oxygen gradually increased in the Earth's atmosphere. For that, we can thank bacteria and stromatolites. There is no other planet in the solar system that has an atmosphere congenial to us. But with its oxygen, the Earth is our home. So here, today, together, we and this flame can exist.
So, what is hope? A simple word with profound implications. As a noun, its meaning can range from a fleeting desire for a trivial outcome to a soul-wrenching longing for a seemingly unattainable goal. We might as well be wishing on a star, a futile supplication to a luminous sphere of gas, as if it had the power to intervene where we feel powerless. We are in such a moment now, watching a global pandemic wreak havoc on our lives, our economy, and our social fabric. Despite our wealth and technical proficiency, we also watch as a deep partisan divide seems determined to keep an effective response out of reach. The biblical view of hope is a confident expectation that God will intervene, but only on the condition that the supplicant is faithful to God's demands. So what are skeptics and atheists to do, absent a higher power to which they might appeal? Science writer Chet Ramo reminds us that, quote, centuries ago, when people suspended their search for absolute truth and began instead to ask how things worked, science was born. While hope is sometimes hard to find, that does not mean the situation is hopeless. It means that with reason, we have the ability to figure out what works and how to get there.
Sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to
Sometimes, when we think there is very little hope, it is good to remember how things used to be. The sociologist Robert Scott reminds us that in the Middle Ages, the belief that an external force controlled daily life contributed to a kind of collective paranoia. Rainstorms, thunder, lightning, wind gusts, solar or lunar eclipses, cold snaps, heat waves, dry spells, and earthquakes alike were considered signs and signals of God's displeasure. As a result, the hobgoblins of fear inhabited every realm of life. The sea became a satanic realm, and forests were populated with beasts of prey, ogres, witches, demons, and very real thieves and cutthroats. After dark, too, the world was filled with omens portending dangers of every sort. Comets, meteors, shooting stars, lunar eclipses, the howls of wild animals, and the hooting of owls.
Here's a poem by Philip Appelman, lifelong member of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, college professor, poet, editor of Darwin's Papers. He chose as the villain of his poem, amongst all the blood-sucking animals in the world, mosquitoes, leeches, bedbugs. He chose the flea. And I think he chose the flea because the flea was the carrier of the bubonic plague, the Black Death of Europe, which killed more people than any other single thing. I think that I shall never see a poem as ugly as a flea whose insect mouth is pressed against a buttock and a breast, a flea who spreads disease all day, then lifts his little claws to prey. Poems were made by you and me, but only God can make a flea. I think no one has ever made a poem as powerful as AIDS, or plagues that may in summer kill half the bishops in Brazil and share the good Lord's final answer with clots and cholera and cancer. For God concocted pox to mock us with staph and siph and streptococcus. Poems were made by bards and hacks, but only God makes cardiacs. I think that I shall never smell a poem as pungent as a hell, where grinning devils turn the screws on saintly Sikhs and upright Jews, giving them the final scorcher, timeless, transcendental torture. Poems can make you want to yell, but only God can give you hell. And here's his point. If you posit a God, and you make him all-powerful, and you give him credit for all the good things, and there's plenty of good things, well then, remember, he's omnipotent. So you have to give him the blame for all the bad stuff. And that's the part that a lot of religious people overlook. Thanks for listening.
Good morning. I'm your Director of Religious Exploration, Amber Scott. We've got a couple classes later today for children and youth. Please check the chat box for more information. Our story today is called I Wonder, written by Annika Harris and illustrated by John Rowe. Eva loves to look for the moon. It follows her from place to place, disappearing behind trees and mountains, and then appearing again someplace new. Look, Mama, there it is. The moon looks so beautiful in the sky. How do you think it follows us, Eva? Eva thinks about it, but she just can't figure it out. It's okay to say, I don't know, says her mother. When we don't know something, we get to wonder about it. I wonder if the moon and the earth are friends, says Eva. Her mother smiles. I like that idea. But Mama, how does the moon really stay close to us? There is an invisible force called gravity that pulls all the things in the universe together, Eva's mother explains. Gravity keeps the moon close to the earth, and it keeps the planets close to the sun, too. They circle around like this. Eva understands a little better, but then she starts to wonder, Mama, where does gravity come from? I don't know, Eva. Nobody really knows for sure. And when no one knows the answer to something, it's called a mystery. A mystery is something for everyone to wonder about together. How fun! Eva imagines herself wondering about gravity together with all of the people in the world. Eva watches the moon disappear behind the clouds as she walks, excited to see where it will appear next. How many grains of sand are in the whole world, Mama? I wonder about that too. There are trillions and trillions of grains of sand, but nobody knows exactly how many. Eva tries to think about all the sand in the whole world. It feels so big that I can't fit it all in my imagination. It makes me feel dizzy, like I'm falling. I know what you mean, her mother agrees, and I'm sure other people feel that way too. Eva walks down another path looking for the moon, and a little orange butterfly appears. Then she notices there are butterflies everywhere. Mama, where did all of these butterflies come from? These butterflies have been flying around for a few days, but they started out as little caterpillars. And those caterpillars came from eggs, and those eggs came from other butterflies. There are cycles all around us, with one thing ending and another beginning. Things are always changing. Can you think of another thing that's changing? Clouds and frogs and me. Later, Eva wonders, Mama, what was here before all the butterflies and frogs and clouds? Before everything? I don't know, answers her mother. It's another mystery. I like trying to imagine what was here before the beginning of everything. What do you think was here? And Eva says, smiling, I don't know. She thinks about it for a long time, and then she has an idea. I wonder if there were feelings. As she walks home, Eva sees the moon again, glowing brightly above the roof of her house. Let's go inside and look for the moon through the window. We live with some big mysteries. When we come upon one, we're given a little gift. Every mystery is something for all of us to wonder about together. What do you wonder about? The author writes that she believes one of the most important things we can give our children is the confidence to say, "I don't know." It's the foundation from which we begin our investigation of the world, asking questions, taking the necessary time to understand the answers, and searching for new answers when the ones we have in hand don't seem to work. The feeling of not knowing is also the source of wonder and awe. People of all ages can benefit from learning to say, "I don't know." As a church community, I invite you to lean into the unknown and to experience the awe, the wonder, and the mystery together.
Richard P. Feynman, the late Nobel-winning physicist, gave a talk in which he said, "I often attend scientific conferences where various persons are giving reports on what they are doing. At the end of each report, there is typically an opportunity for questions, and often there are some good and insightful questions. I like to ask what I think are the most important questions about the work or the topic that was discussed. And these questions should not be frivolous, but to the main point of the matter. If from all the questions the speaker never says, 'I don't know,' or 'I'm not sure,' I know he doesn't know what he is talking about because he is unaware of the limits of his own knowledge."
First UU is a church that matters. It takes all of us to make our world better. Our Share the Plate recipient this month is the NEMAP Food Pantry. NEMAP, which stands for Near North Side Emergency Material Assistance Program, is a partner agency of the Mid-Ohio Food Collective. Its primary focus is to provide individuals and families with free groceries once a week. But it also provides Medicaid and food stamp assistance, infant toddler supplies, and basic personal care items. Your donations that help build a better church and bring some hope to the world will be gratefully received. You can text GIVE to 614-879-1480 or follow the instructions on the screen or visit our website, firstuucolumbus.org, to see how to donate online or by check. Thank you.
Our UU tradition draws from many sources. Among these are humanist teachings which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Why is this important? Well, there was a time in human history, a very long time, when people looked to religion and the supernatural to explain the world around them. Comets were portents of disaster. Plagues and epidemics were caused by evil spirits or foul vapors. Volcanoes and earthquakes were the wrath of angry deities. Witches were blamed for droughts, poor harvests, or malformed livestock. Mental disorders were the result of demons inhabiting the victim. During these times, it was also accepted that God had ordained that certain people, by virtue of their skin color, were destined to be servants and slaves. For the poor, life was short and hard, and the world was often a fearful place. As global trade increased in the 16th and 17th centuries, and the excesses of the church were challenged, a new way of thinking arose. These ideas, we now refer to them as the scientific method, showed that the world and the heavens were not controlled by supernatural forces. Instead, they could be understood by close observation and testing, and the application of mathematics. Discovery followed discovery, and over the centuries, lives of people everywhere improved.
This is by Chet Ramo, a science writer and columnist for the Boston Herald. The physician essayist Lewis Thomas wrote, "The greatest of all the accomplishments of 20th century science has been the discovery of human ignorance. The discovery of our ignorance should not be construed as a negative thing. Rather, ignorance is a vessel waiting to be filled, permission for growth, a ground for the electrifying encounter with mystery." But throughout most of the Christian era, truth has been sought in Holy Scriptures, presumed to be divinely inspired. And these, being finite, can, in principle at least, be entirely known. Thus evolved a false sense of conviction, an arrogance of certainty. From such assurance were derived the burning of heretics, holy wars, pogroms, religious imperialism, and all the other wretched excesses that have betrayed the Sermon on the Mount.
Two key elements distinguish science from other ways of thinking. One, tests must be reproducible by others not involved in the original work. And two, all conclusions must pass muster with a jury of peers. Together, these two features mean that science, as a way of knowing, is self-correcting. Also, science is open-ended. Scientists don't deal in eternal truths, but rather in the best explanations at the time for a set of observations. Scientific exploration moves in fits and starts, and not every possible topic for investigation has someone willing to study it. Yet science is additive. Our picture of nature, from the smallest to the largest scales, becomes more complete with each small finding. And as we add to our storehouse of knowledge, the boundary between the known and the unknown expands. Opportunities for new discoveries, therefore, are boundless. Let's examine just a few of the benefits that science has brought to human society. Science discovered that diseases are caused by germs, bacteria and viruses, leading to the development of vaccines and drug treatments that help extend life. Germ theory led to the realization that disease is spread through human waste. This became the impetus to create flush toilets, sewers, and sewage treatment plants. Public treatment systems remove disease-causing elements from our water supplies. Today, having clean water is recognized as a basic human right. The science of refrigeration made it possible to eat healthier all year round. Medical science gave us anesthesia, X-rays, and drugs for just about every ailment. It continues today to provide ever more sophisticated diagnostic and surgical techniques. The creation of optical devices opened worlds beyond our human senses, the very tiny and the very distant. Today we have instruments to view the universe in wavelengths across the electromagnetic spectrum. The secrets of the heavens have been revealed to us through starlight. We have sent probes to all the planets of the solar system and out into deep space. Telescopes, both earthbound and in space, have revealed thousands of planets orbiting other stars. On the other end of the scale, giant particle colliders have made it possible to peer inside the workings of the atom and understand the nature of matter and energy. Genetic science has given us improved foods, treatments for many medical conditions, and DNA analysis that has allowed wrongly accused prisoners to be set free. It has also helped us understand our shared humanity. Maps of the human genome confirm that our species not only arose in Africa, but also that our ancestors interbred with other human species. We carry the markers of these others in our own genetic makeup. Biologists are showing how our physical health is strongly influenced by the bacteria and fungi that live within and on our bodies, our microbiome. And recent studies demonstrate how the health of our microbiome depends on the health of the microbiomes of the plants and animals we consume. And the microbiomes of these organisms are strongly influenced by the health of the microbiomes of the soil in which the plants grow. Indeed, we are connected to the earth in intimate ways that were unimagined just a few years ago. The earth sciences have shown that earthquakes and volcanoes are the result of pieces of the Earth's crust moving slowly across the surface of the planet. Geologists have also demonstrated that life has been present on the Earth for over 3.5 billion years. Knowledge of the Earth and its intertwined systems have allowed vastly improved forecasting of the weather and to understand humans' impact on climate. Chemists, material scientists, and engineers have given us tens of thousands of products that help make our lives fuller, richer, longer, and healthier. Look around you. Everything, from the fibers in your carpet to the finish on your furniture to the glass in your windows to the electronic devices you are using, is the result of scientific discovery and applied science. I could go on with thousands more examples of how science as a way of knowing the world has led to improvements in the lives of ordinary people. Of course, the scientific journey has not been without misuses and missteps. 18th and 19th century anthropologists developed classification systems purporting to show the superiority of the white race. Charles Darwin criticized these systems as highly flawed and their conclusions unsupportable, but that didn't stop them from being used by both politicians and religious leaders. In the early 20th century, credentialed scientists supported the concepts of eugenics and engaged in unethical medical research on minority communities. More recently, we've discovered that refrigerants in our home and car air conditioners have damaged the ozone layer that protects us from the sun's dangerous ultraviolet rays. Scientists have been co-opted by governments to create ever more destructive means of waging war, from poison gas to weaponized germs to nuclear explosives. Our ability to manipulate the genes of living organisms is fraught with both possibility and danger. And science has given us the ability to alter the natural systems of the planet on which our lives depend. With this in mind, it is worth considering the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. from his 1963 book, Strength to Love. Soft-mindedness often invades religion. Soft-minded persons have revised the Beatitudes to read, "Blessed are the pure in ignorance, for they shall see God." This has led to a widespread belief that there is a conflict between science and religion. But this is not true. There may be a conflict between soft-minded religionists and tough-minded scientists, but not between science and religion. Science investigates, religion interprets. Science gives humankind knowledge, which is power. Religion gives humankind wisdom, which is control. Science deals mainly with facts. Religion deals mainly with values. The two are not rivals, they are complementary. My charge to you then is to work to increase your scientific literacy. Embrace complex ideas and engage knowledgeably in discussion of the moral implications of how this knowledge is to be used. Consider yourselves to be ambassadors for science.
Modern humans continue to believe and advance the myths and stories originated and repeated by ancient peoples trying to understand their natural world. They had limited knowledge, but we confirm these tales as divine truths, regardless of the scientific knowledge we now possess. As one example, a man, probably with the help of family members, maybe 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, harvested and honed enough timber to build a vessel large enough to house several thousand animals, birds, and insects, along with, of course, his family members. He gathered and stored without refrigeration enough food to feed his menagerie for 1 or 2 months. Additionally, the man somehow had the time and means to locate and capture his zoo, almost all of which lived far from the man's desert home. But science and math tell us that when constructing any type of wooden vessel, the labor and materials available will determine the output. The meager resources available to one man and his family would not equate to the output, the ark, that was allegedly produced. Also, the ability to collect and store the resources necessary to house, feed, and care for such a multitude of life forms was insurmountable. And even in the 21st century, we've only marginally perfected how to capture wildlife. The cost of continually supporting, confirming, and passing on such myths as this to our children as divine truths robs us of the brain power needed to solve real-world problems. Although a nostalgic yearn for childhood myths that brought past joy is certainly reasonable, we need rational thinking based on actual evidence to differentiate unsupported stories from verifiable facts. Equating Santa Claus's one-night-a-year trek with the existence of the Hubble's telescope may border on schizophrenic thinking. As adults, we must accept and welcome the knowledge science can reveal. The environment, our communities, and our lives on this planet are our obligation to shape and manage. 21st century issues are numerous and complex. Mental hiding is not an option.
Most of us try to use reason to make decisions, or at least we believe we do. However, it's not as easy as we think, and it has to do with the difference between two very similar words, rational and rationalize. In his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman tells us that we make most decisions in our lives before we even realize it. As an example, he shows us this picture. We instantaneously judge her emotion, and in fact may project what we think she is likely to say. This is what he calls fast thinking, and has developed naturally for our survival, because it is what first warns us of danger, an oncoming car, a falling tree limb, or an attacking animal. Fast thinking is largely effortless, and we prefer to use it when we can. But in many cases, fast thinking comes up with the wrong answer, precisely because it avoids making any effort. Kahneman notes that in the majority of cases, an impression or belief comes by way of intuitive thought, and when asked the reasons, our slow-thinking self concocts a story to justify what we had already decided. This is what we mean by rationalizing. But slow thinking, rational thinking, a methodical, often step-by-step process, takes much more effort, and we tend to avoid it when we can. And we are now just realizing the danger it poses. The intuitive, fast-thinking part of us responds strongly to emotional cues. Think of the advertising that wants you to picture yourself in a happy mood with wealthy friends to give you the idea that buying their product will somehow give you those desirable feelings. No logical argument is even attempted. And now, social media entertains you with stories that encourage you to either hate or feel more loyalty to a particular group or point of view. Politicians have learned this lesson well. They tell or show you something that creates an emotional response, and then they are in control because that is where your first thoughts are formed before your slow thinking, critical evaluation ever gets started. It is characterized by appealing to our strongest emotions, fear, delight, our desire for acceptance. A recent documentary interviewed a number of Germans who were alive during the Hitler era. They said that the huge crowds and devotion of them swept them along, even though they did not like him or what he stood for at all. But they were swept away. How can we tell when we are being coerced away from reason and toward rationalizing? It is not easy, and it takes effort. The first and most important step is just realizing that this happens to us, and then slow down. This requires thinking, which is hard work, but it is vital, because if you cannot reason, it is as if your thoughts are being chained by someone or something else. Only by stopping and reasoning step by step can we break those chains that bind us.
There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere.
This is by Chet Ramo, a science writer and columnist for the Boston Herald. I am the fairest of flowers. I am the dance of the DNA. I am the language of amino acids. I am a blossom assembled from atoms of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen, according to a chemical script shared in part by every living thing on Earth.
So, where do we find hope? It is truly available, but we need only to see it where it is. Let me conclude with the words of the Harvard psychologist Steven Pinker. Remember your math. An anecdote is not a trend. Remember your history. The fact that something is bad today doesn't mean it was better in the past. Remember your philosophy. One cannot reason that there's no such thing as reason, or that something is true or good because God said it is. And remember your psychology. Much of what we know isn't so, especially when our friends know it too. Keep some perspective. Not every problem is a crisis or existential threat, and not every change is the end of this, the death of that, or the dawn of a post-something era. The story of human progress is truly heroic. It is glorious. It is uplifting. It is even, I dare say, spiritual. It goes something like this. We are born into a pitiless universe, facing steep odds against life-enabling order and in constant jeopardy of falling apart. We were shaped by a force that is ruthlessly competitive. We are made from crooked timber, vulnerable to illusions, self-centeredness, and at times astounding stupidity. Yet, human nature has also been blessed with resources that open a space for a kind of redemption. We are endowed with the power to combine ideas recursively, to have thoughts about our thoughts. We have an instinct for language, allowing us to share the fruits of our experience and ingenuity. We are deepened with the capacity for sympathy, for pity, imagination, compassion, commiseration. These endowments have found ways to magnify their own power. The scope of language has been augmented by the written, printed, and electronic word. Our circle of sympathy has been expanded by history, journalism, and the arts, and our puny rational faculties have been multiplied by the norms and institutions of reason, intellectual curiosity, open debate, skepticism of authority and dogma, and the burden of proof to verify ideas by confronting them against reality. As the spiral of recursive improvement gathers momentum, we eke out victories against the forces that grind us down, not least the darker parts of our nature. We penetrate the mysteries of the cosmos, including life and mind. We live longer, suffer less, learn more, get smarter, and enjoy more small pleasures and rich experiences. Fewer of us are killed, assaulted, enslaved, oppressed, or exploited by others. From a few oases, the territories with peace and prosperity are growing and could someday encompass the globe. Much suffering remains and tremendous peril. We will never have a perfect world, and it would be dangerous to seek one. But there is no limit to the betterments we can attain if we continue to apply knowledge to enhance human flourishing. And today, we know that our flourishing requires the flourishing of the whole planet, and all its creatures. And this is our greatest hope of all.
If you